The massive crystalline structure of Harmony Prime Station floated silently in the void between stars. Ambassador Zephron of the Altarian Empire adjusted his forearms as he reviewed the thick datapad containing Earth's military documentation. His pale blue skin rippled with concern as he read through page after page of what seemed like evidence of humanity's savage nature. "Kill count training," he muttered to his aide, a young Altarian named Vex. "They actually keep records of how many beings their soldiers have eliminated during practice sessions." Vex's antennae twitched nervously. "Sir, perhaps we should reconsider allowing this species into the Galactic Council. Their application mentions something called casualty simulations, where they practice mass elimination scenarios." Zephron scrolled through more documents, his expression growing darker. The humans had submitted detailed reports about their military capabilities as required by Council regulations. What the Altarian ambassador saw horrified him. References to target elimination, neutralization protocols, and something called close quarters battle training filled every page. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison checked his uniform one final time before stepping onto the transport shuttle. The tall, brown-haired officer had been chosen to represent humanity's finest military personnel. Beside him, Lieutenant Susan Blake straightened her dark blue dress uniform and reviewed her presentation notes. "You nervous, Jake?" Susan asked as the shuttle approached the enormous alien station. Jake shook his head. "Just want to make a good impression. This is humanity's chance to join something bigger than ourselves." The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Jake and Susan walked through the airlock into a world unlike anything they had ever seen. The station's interior glowed with soft purple light emanating from the walls themselves. Alien beings of various shapes and sizes moved through the corridors with graceful, peaceful movements. A tall, thin creature with silver skin and large black eyes approached them. "Greetings, humans. I am Mediator Quill of the Peaceful Relations Department. We will escort you to the assessment chamber." Jake and Susan followed Quill through winding corridors lined with what appeared to be living artwork. Plants and crystals grew in perfect harmony, creating patterns that seemed to shift and change as they walked past. The entire station felt like a temple dedicated to tranquility and cooperation. They entered a large circular room where dozens of alien observers sat in elevated seating around a central area. Jake recognized some species from the briefing materials. The insectoid Vrex delegates clicked their mandibles softly. The gaseous Nellan representatives floated in specialized containment spheres. Crystalline beings from the Prism Collective reflected light in beautiful patterns. The human military representatives will now demonstrate their training protocols, announced a voice that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Jake and Susan moved to the center of the room. They had prepared a standard military presentation, showing how human forces trained for peacekeeping operations. Jake activated his portable holographic projector and began displaying footage from Earth's military academies. The first video showed Marines practicing room-clearing exercises. The aliens watched in stunned silence as human soldiers moved through mock buildings with precise, coordinated movements. Each soldier covered specific angles while teammates advanced. When they encountered targets, the humans eliminated them with swift, efficient actions. General Chittle of the Vrex military leaned forward, his compound eyes reflecting horror. "They move like predators," he whispered to his aide. "Look how they systematically hunt down every target in that structure." The next video showed Navy SEALs conducting underwater demolition training. The aliens observed humans swimming silently through dark water before placing explosive charges on target structures. The footage then cut to the massive explosions that followed. Strategic Analyst Prism 9 pulsed with alarmed colors. They destroy entire installations without hesitation. Notice how they celebrate the destruction afterward. Susan began explaining. the purpose of each exercise, but the alien observers seemed to hear only what confirmed their worst fears. When she mentioned the human soldiers trained for target elimination and threat neutralization, the audience became visibly agitated. In human military doctrine, Susan continued, we emphasize the importance of decisive action when facing hostile forces. Our soldiers practice scenarios where they must eliminate multiple targets quickly and efficiently. The Altarian delegation exchanged horrified glances. Ambassador Zifron made notes on his datapad with shaking hands. The human female was openly discussing mass elimination as if it were normal behavior. Jake switched to footage of combat medic training. The video showed human medical personnel practicing emergency surgery under battlefield conditions. The aliens watched humans working frantically over realistic training dummies covered in simulated blood and injuries. Our casualty protocols ensure maximum efficiency in high-stress situations, Jake explained. Human medics trained to process large numbers of wounded personnel using triage methods to determine who can be saved and who cannot. Dr. Volin of the Healing Council nearly fainted. The humans were describing systematic decisions about who deserved to live or die. Their medics actually trained to make such terrible choices as part of their normal procedures. The presentation continued with urban warfare simulations. Human soldiers moved through mock cities, engaging targets while avoiding civilian areas. The precision and speed of their operations impressed the aliens from a technical standpoint, but the implications terrified them. Commander Liu Wei, who had arrived as military liaison, stepped forward to address the assembly. His calm demeanor and professional bearing did nothing to ease the aliens' concerns. Honored delegates, Liu began, humanity understands that joining the Galactic Council requires demonstrating our military capabilities. We hope these examples show that human forces are prepared for any threats that might endanger peaceful civilizations. The alien observers interpreted this statement as a barely veiled threat. The human commander was essentially promising violence against anyone who opposed them. Senator Valen of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition stood up, his translucent form shimmering with distress. Ambassador Morrison, your species appears to have developed warfare into a precise science. Your soldiers train constantly for elimination and destruction. How can we trust such beings to maintain galactic peace? Jake looked confused. Sir, our military exists to protect innocent people and maintain stability. Everything we've shown you represents humanity's commitment to defending those who cannot defend themselves. But the aliens heard only confirmation of their fears. The human captain spoke of protection and defense, but his definition clearly involved systematic violence on a massive scale. They had watched human soldiers practice killing with mechanical efficiency. They had seen human medics trained decide who lived and who died. They had witnessed human commanders planning large-scale elimination operations. As the presentation ended, the alien delegates sat in stunned silence. They had expected to evaluate a potentially dangerous species, but what they had seen exceeded their worst nightmares. Humanity appeared to be a race of perfectly trained killers who had turned warfare into an art form. The session concluded with polite thanks, but Jake and Susan could sense the tension in the room. As they walked back to their shuttle, Susan turned to Jake with a worried expression. Something went wrong in there, she said. They looked at us like we were monsters. Jake nodded grimly. I don't think they understood what we were trying to show them. We might have made things worse instead of better. Neither human realized that their demonstration had convinced the Galactic Council that humanity was the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss humanity's membership application. The massive dome-shaped chamber could hold thousands of beings, and today it was filled to capacity. Holographic displays showed footage from the human military. Demonstration while delegates whispered among themselves in dozens of different languages. Senator Valen of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition stood at the central podium, his translucent form glowing with agitation. Behind him, large screens displayed clips of human soldiers moving through training scenarios with deadly precision. Fellow delegates, Valen began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, we have witnessed something unprecedented in our galactic history, a species that has perfected the art of systematic elimination. The screens showed Marine Sergeant Amy Foster leading her squad through an urban warfare simulation. The aliens watched in horror as humans practiced what they called clearing hostile positions and neutralizing multiple targets. Amy's team moved with machine-like efficiency, each soldier covering specific angles while teammates advanced through the mock city. Look at how they coordinate their attacks, Valen continued, pointing at the screen. Every movement is calculated for maximum lethality. They have turned killing into a precise science. Ambassador Zifron activated his speaking device from his seat in the Altarian section. I have reviewed their training manuals extensively. They actually keep detailed records of something called kill counts. Their soldiers compete to see who can eliminate the most targets during practice sessions. What the aliens did not understand was that Amy's squad was practicing hostage rescue scenarios. The targets they eliminated were simulated terrorists holding innocent civilians. The hostile positions they cleared were buildings where non-combatants needed protection. But to the peaceful alien observers, it looked like humans training for mass slaughter. Dr. Ryan Cooper had been assigned to explain human medical protocols to the Galactic Medical Board. The stocky, red-haired medic sat in a small conference room surrounded by alien medical professionals who had never witnessed violence beyond minor accidents. Our casualty protocols begin with triage assessment, Ryan explained, activating a holographic display showing a battlefield medical station. We categorize wounded personnel into 3 groups based on survivability. Dr. Zelen of the Vrixie Healing Order recoiled as Ryan described the triage system. You actually decide who deserves medical attention and who does not. Ryan nodded, not understanding the horror in the alien doctor's voice. That's correct. We use black tags for those who cannot be saved, red tags for immediate treatment, and yellow tags for delayed care. This allows us to save the maximum number of lives with limited resources. The alien medical board exchanged shocked glances. The human was casually describing a system where medical personnel made life and death decisions based on efficiency. Calculations. To beings who had never experienced large-scale casualties, this seemed like the coldest form of brutality imaginable. But surely you attempt to save everyone, pressed Dr. Neem of the Compassionate Care Collective. Ryan shook his head. That would be inefficient and would result in more deaths overall. Sometimes we have to let people die so that others can live. It's harsh, but it's the reality of battlefield medicine. The alien doctors sat in stunned silence. They had devoted their lives to preserving every form of life, no matter how insignificant. The idea of deliberately allowing beings to die for the sake of saving others violated everything they believed about medical ethics. Meanwhile, at the Harmony Prime training facility, Marine Sergeant Amy Foster was conducting another demonstration for alien military observers. Her squad of 12 Marines moved through a complex urban environment filled with civilian targets mixed among hostile ones. The key to urban operations, Amy explained to the alien observers, is identifying threats while protecting non-combatants. We train extensively in target discrimination and precision engagement. General Chittle of the Vrex watched through his compound eyes as Amy's Marines practiced room-by-room searches. When they encountered armed targets, the humans eliminated them with single, precisely placed shots. When they found civilians, they quickly moved them to safety before continuing their advance. Notice how they process each area systematically. Amy continued, "No structure is left unsearched. No potential threat is ignored. This ensures complete elimination of hostile forces." The Vrex general's mandibles clicked nervously. The human female was describing a methodical extermination process. Her soldiers moved through the training area like a plague, eliminating everything they classified as hostile. The precision was admirable from a tactical perspective, but the implications were terrifying. Back in the council chamber, the debate continued as more evidence of human military capabilities was presented. Strategic Analyst Prison 9 displayed charts showing human weapons development over the past century. Their technological advancement in destructive capability is unprecedented, the crystalline being pulsed in alarmed colors. They have developed weapons capable of eliminating entire planetary populations. They call them weapons of mass destruction, and they actually built thousands of them. The council members gasped as images of nuclear weapons tests filled the giant screens. They watched mushroom clouds rising above Earth's surface, while human observers recorded the destructive power of their creations. What the aliens did not know was that these weapons had never been used against populated areas after their initial development. Humanity had recognized the terrible power they had created and had worked for decades to reduce their nuclear arsenals. But to the alien observers, the existence of such weapons proved that humans were capable of unimaginable destruction. Commander, Lu Wei tried to address the Council's concerns during a private meeting with senior delegates. A calm Chinese officer sat across from representatives of the major galactic powers, hoping to clarify humanity's intentions. "Honored delegates," Lu began, "I believe there may be some misunderstanding about human military doctrine. Our forces exist solely to protect peaceful civilizations from those who would do them harm." Ambassador Zephron leaned forward, his four arms crossed skeptically. "Commander, we have seen your training footage. Your soldiers practice systematic elimination with mechanical precision. How is this protective?" Liu chose his words carefully. "Our military training emphasizes efficiency and precision to minimize casualties during conflict resolution. Every tactic we employ is designed to end threats quickly while protecting innocent lives." But the alien delegates heard only confirmation of their fears. The human commander spoke of ending threats and conflict resolution through systematic violence. His calm demeanor while discussing such brutal topics made him seem even more dangerous. Senator Valen activated his communication device to address the full council session. "Fellow beings, we face an unprecedented decision. This species has demonstrated capabilities that exceed our worst nightmares about military aggression. They train constantly for elimination operations. They plan systematically for mass casualties. They have developed weapons that could destroy entire worlds." The council chamber erupted in nervous chatter as delegates discussed the implications. Some argued that humanity should be rejected immediately. Others suggested placing them under strict observation. A few brave voices proposed giving humans limited membership with severe restrictions on their military activities. As the debate raged, Captain Jake Morrison and Lieutenant Susan Blake waited in their assigned quarters aboard Harmony Prime. They had no idea that their demonstration had convinced the galaxy's most powerful civilizations that humanity represented an existential threat to galactic peace. The vote was close, but ultimately the Council decided to grant humanity provisional membership with unprecedented restrictions. They would be assigned only to diplomatic missions far from any potential conflict zones. Human military personnel would be monitored constantly. Any sign of aggressive behavior would result in immediate expulsion from the galactic community. Decision was announced as a compromise, but everyone in the chamber understood the truth. The Galactic Council was terrified of humanity and was keeping them as far away from real responsibility as possible. They had no idea that this decision would soon prove to be the worst mistake in galactic history. The first warning came from a deep space monitoring station on the edge of Rex territory. Sensor operator Zix was conducting routine scans when her equipment detected something that should not have existed. Massive biosignatures were moving through empty space at impossible speeds, consuming everything in their path. Alert command immediately. Zix clicked to her supervisor through rapid mandible movements. Unknown vessels are approaching the Kepler system. Within hours, the entire Galactic Council Emergency Network was buzzing with reports of the same phenomenon. The dormant Krek swarm had awakened after 3 centuries of silence, and they were hungry. Admiral Nexus of the Galactic Defense Force studied the incoming data with growing horror. The crystalline being's form pulsed with alarmed colors as he processed the scope of the threat. The Krek's bioships were not just attacking military targets. They were systematically devouring entire planets, consuming every living thing they encountered. "Send diplomatic envoys immediately," ordered Council Prime Vorthik during an emergency session. "Perhaps we can negotiate a peaceful resolution, as we have done with all previous conflicts." 3 diplomatic vessels approached the Krek swarm near the outer rim of Altarian space. Ambassador Kelm led the delegation, confident that centuries of successful peaceful negotiations would serve them well against this awakened threat. The diplomatic ships transmitted universal peace symbols and offers of negotiation. The Krek's response was swift and decisive. Massive bioships enveloped the diplomatic vessels, dissolving them completely within minutes. The crew members were absorbed into the Krek's collective consciousness while their ships were broken down for raw materials. Back on Earth, Admiral Greg Stone was reviewing routine patrol reports when an urgent transmission arrived from Harmony. Prime, the gray-haired veteran, had served in conflicts across the globe and had seen humanity at both its best and worst. Nothing in his experience had prepared him for what he was about to witness. Admiral Stone, kin to voice of Ambassador Zephron, barely controlled panic evident even through the translation system. "The Galactic Council requests immediate human assistance. We face a threat unlike anything in our recorded history." The transmission included footage of Krek's attacks on peaceful worlds. Greg watched as bioships descended on inhabited planets like living storms. The alien creatures moved with terrifying efficiency, their warrior drones showing no mercy to any living being they encountered. Cities were consumed in hours. Entire populations vanished without trace. "My God," Greg whispered as he watched. A Krek swarm engulfed a space station filled with civilian refugees. The bioships dissolved the structure while absorbing every person inside. "How many worlds have they taken?" 17 systems in the past week, Zephron replied. "Our defensive forces have proven completely inadequate. The Kreks do not respond to negotiation or surrender. They simply consume everything in their path." Greg immediately began mobilizing human forces, but he was puzzled by the aliens' previous reluctance to involve humanity in military matters. "Ambassador, I thought the Council had concerns about human military capabilities." There was a long pause before Zephron responded. "Admiral, we may have made an error in our assessment of your species. We believed you were too dangerous for peacekeeping operations. Now we face something far worse than anything we imagined humanity capable of." Colonel Beth Martinez received her deployment orders while conducting training exercises in Nevada. The tough, experienced Marine officer had led peacekeeping missions in some of Earth's most dangerous regions. She understood better than most that sometimes violence was the only language certain enemies understood. "Pack for extended deployment," Beth told her staff. "We're heading into unknown territory against an enemy that makes our worst human conflicts look like playground disputes." The transport ship carrying Beth's advance team arrived at the besieged world of New Selling 3 days later. The planet's surface was scarred with massive impact craters where Krek's bioships had landed. Smoke rose from burning cities, while streams of refugees fled toward evacuation points. Prime Shelter Noxum, Macbeth's team at the Emergency Command Center. The tall, bird-like alien's feathers were disheveled with stress and exhaustion. Colonel Martinez, thank you for coming. Our situation is desperate. Beth studied the tactical displays showing Krek's positions across the planet. What happened to your military forces? Noxum's head drooped in shame. They fled when the first bioships landed. Our soldiers have never faced real violence before. When they saw what the Kreks do to prisoners, most of them abandoned their posts. The displays showed refugee camps filled with terrified civilians. Beth had seen similar scenes in human conflicts, but never on this scale. Entire populations were streaming away from Kreks-controlled areas, carrying whatever possessions they could manage. The Kreks don't just kill, Noxum explained. They absorb living beings into their collective consciousness. The victims remain aware, but cannot control their actions. It is a fate worse than death. Beth's team established communications with other human units arriving throughout the sector. Reports came in from multiple worlds showing the same pattern. Peaceful alien civilizations were collapsing under Kreks attacks because they had no experience with such brutal warfare. Captain Pete Davis landed his company on the outskirts of New Seland's capital city. The urban area was partially overrun by Kreks forces, with thousands of alien civilians trapped in the contested zones. Pete's Marines had trained extensively for urban combat, but fighting biomechanical creatures was unlike anything in their experience. Sir, we've got visual contact with Kreks warrior drones, reported Sergeant Nick Turner over the comm system. They're unlike anything in our briefing materials. Pete moved forward to observe the enemy positions. The Kreks drones stood 3 meters tall, with 6 limbs ending in razor-sharp claws. Their exoskeletons seemed to shift and adapt as they moved, making them difficult to target effectively. Most disturbing were the partially absorbed alien victims who moved alongside the drones, their faces showing awareness but no control over their actions. The first engagement came when Pete's Marines encountered a group of Kreks, drones herding civilian prisoners toward a bioship. The humans opened fire with precision tactics, but their standard weapons had limited effect on the adaptive Kreks armor. Switch to armor-piercing rounds, Pete ordered. Concentrate fire on joint areas where their exoskeletons appear weakest. Marines adapted quickly, identifying vulnerable points in Kreks anatomy through careful observation. Their training in target analysis and precision shooting proved valuable against enemies that required multiple hits to neutralize. Meanwhile, Field Medic Tony Rodriguez was establishing emergency treatment stations for wounded alien refugees. The injuries he encountered were unlike anything in human medical experience. Kreks bioweapons caused wounds that continued to spread and consume healthy tissue. We need to develop new treatment protocols immediately, Tony reported to Medical. Command, standard field medicine isn't sufficient for these bioweapon injuries. Tony worked alongside alien medical personnel who were completely overwhelmed by the scale of casualties. The peaceful species had medical knowledge, but no experience with combat trauma or mass casualty situations. Throughout the sector, human forces were discovering that their brutal military training was exactly what the galaxy needed to face the Kreks threat. Tactics that had horrified peaceful aliens, precision elimination, systematic target engagement, and efficient casualty processing were proving essential for survival against an enemy that showed no mercy. Lieutenant Commander Sam Brooks coordinated rescue operations across multiple worlds simultaneously. His elimination protocols were saving thousands of alien civilians by quickly neutralizing Kreks forces that threatened evacuation routes. As the first week of fighting concluded, something unprecedented was happening across the galaxy. The same alien civilizations that had feared humanity's military capabilities were now depending on them for survival. Human forces were not conquering worlds, but liberating them from a threat that peaceful species could not comprehend. The tide of battle was beginning to turn, but the real test of humanity's character was still to come. Captain Pete Davis crouched behind the rubble of what had once been a beautiful crystal tower in New Seland's downtown district. His Marines were spread across the devastated plaza, each one covering specific angles while they prepared for the most complex rescue operation of their careers. 3,000 alien civilians were trapped in a partially collapsed government building, with Krek's bioships circling overhead like mechanical vultures. Remember, we go in fast and we get them. Out faster, Pete whispered into his comm unit. The moment those bioships detect organized resistance, they'll consume the entire building. Sergeant Kate Williams adjusted her position near the building's main entrance. Through her scope, she could see dozens of Krek's warrior drones patrolling the interior corridors. The alien prisoners were being herded toward processing chambers, where they would be absorbed into the Krek's collective consciousness. I count 47 drones on the ground floor, Kate reported. Standard elimination pattern should clear the main corridors in approximately 3 minutes. The Galactic Council observers watching through remote feeds held their breath as they witnessed what they had previously considered humanity's most terrifying capability. Kate's squad moved through the building with the same mechanical precision they had demonstrated during training exercises. But now the alien observers understood the true purpose behind those brutal drills. Each human soldier covered specific zones while teammates advanced. When they encountered Krek's drones, they eliminated them with swift, efficient actions that minimized noise and avoided damaging the building's weakened structure. The aliens realized that humanity's kill count training was actually designed to save lives by ending threats as quickly as possible. "Third floor secure," reported Corporal Dan Miller. "We've got approximately 400 civilians in the eastern wing. They're terrified but unharmed." Pete coordinated the evacuation while maintaining communication with air support. "We need dust-off in 6 minutes. Any longer and those bioships will figure out what we're doing." The rescue operation proceeded exactly as human military doctrine demanded. Civilians were moved to secure areas, while soldiers maintained overwatch positions. Medical personnel treated injured aliens, using field trauma techniques that the galactic medical community had previously condemned as heartlessly efficient. Dr. Volan of the Healing Council watched through remote feeds as field medic Tony Rodriguez worked on wounded alien refugees. The human medic was using the same triage protocols that had horrified the alien medical board weeks earlier. Tony quickly assessed each patient, applied red tags to those requiring immediate treatment, yellow tags to those who could wait, and black tags to those beyond help. "He's actually saving more lives this way," Dr. Volan whispered to his colleagues. "By focusing resources on those who can be helped, he's maximizing survival rates under impossible conditions." Tony worked alongside Dr. Neem of the Compassionate Care Collective, teaching the alien physician how to make the difficult decisions that human medics learn during their training. "I know it seems cruel," Tony explained while treating a severely injured Cellin refugee, "but if we spend an hour trying to save someone who won't survive, 3 other people who could have lived will die waiting for treatment." Dr. Neem's tentacles trembled as she applied a black tag to a patient whose injuries were too severe for field treatment. It went against everything her species believed about medical care, but she could see the logic in the human approach. Around them, dozens of patients were receiving life-saving treatment because resources weren't being wasted on hopeless cases. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Sam Brooks was orchestrating the largest multi-world evacuation in galactic history. His command sent her aboard the human cruiser, Defiant coordinated rescue operations across 17 different star systems simultaneously. The alien observers who had once feared his elimination protocols now watched in amazement as those same protocols saved millions of innocent lives. Sector 7 reports successful extraction of 12,000 civilians. Came a report from Commander Lisa Park on the planet Altair Prime. Krex forces have been neutralized with minimal collateral damage. Sam studied the tactical displays, showing human units operating across the galaxy. Each team was employing the same systematic approach that had terrified the Galactic Council. They identified threats, eliminated them efficiently, and secured civilian populations before moving to the next objective. Ambassador Zifron stood in the Council observation chamber, his forearms trembling as he watched human forces in action. Beside him, strategic analyst Prism 9 pulsed with colors that indicated profound realization and shame. "We were wrong about them," Zefron said quietly. "Everything we interpreted as bloodthirsty aggression was actually disciplined restraint in service of protecting others." General Chittle of the Vrex clicked his mandibles in agreement. "Look how they engage the Krex forces. Every action is calculated to minimize harm to non-combatants. Their training emphasized precision over destruction." On the screens, they watched Sergeant Kate Williams and her squad clearing a residential complex on New Cellin. The humans moved through the building with the same efficiency they had demonstrated during training, but now the purpose was clear. They were protecting families who cowered in their homes while Krex drones hunted for victims. "Target eliminated," Kate reported calmly after neutralizing a Krex drone that had been stalking a group of children. Proceeding to next objective. The alien observers realized that Kate's emotionless tone wasn't evidence of callous brutality. It was professional discipline that allowed her to function effectively while protecting innocent lives under the most stressful conditions imaginable. Senator Valen of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition watched human forces coordinate complex rescue operations across multiple worlds. His translucent form shimmered with shame as he remembered his speech condemning humanity's military capabilities. "They're not conquerors," he said to the assembled delegates. "They're protectors who can make the decisions that peaceful species cannot." Colonel Beth Martinez led the final assault on New Cellin's primary Krex staging area. Her Marines had adapted their tactics to exploit weaknesses in Krex bioarmor while avoiding contamination from their bioweapons. The operation required precisely the kind of systematic approach that had convinced the galaxy that humans were dangerous killers. "Remember, we're here to rescue prisoners, not rack up kill counts," Beth reminded her troops. "Every Krex we eliminate is one less threat to innocent civilians." The Marines advanced through the Krex compound using room-clearing techniques that the aliens had watched with horror during training demonstrations. But now they understood that every aspect of human military doctrine was designed to protect non-combatants by eliminating threats as efficiently as possible. Inside the compound, Beth's team found hundreds of alien prisoners in various stages of absorption into the Krex collective. Some were still themselves, but paralyzed by bioneural control devices. Others had been partially integrated and moved with jerky, unnatural motions, while their faces showed trapped awareness. "Medical team to processing chamber immediately," Beth called. "We've got survivors who need immediate treatment for bioneural contamination." Dr. Ryan Cooper arrived with his field medical unit and began applying human military medical protocols to alien victims of Krex bioweapons. The aliens watching realized that Ryan's casualty protocols were saving beings that their own medical systems couldn't help dot as the week-long battle for New Cellin concluded. Something remarkable had happened across the galaxy. The same military capabilities that had convinced the Galactic Council that humanity was too dangerous for peacekeeping operations had proven to be exactly what peaceful civilizations needed to survive against true evil. Captain Pete Davis stood among the rescued civilians as transport ships carried them to safety. Thousands of alien families owed their lives to the brutal efficiency that had once terrified their leaders. The humans had demonstrated that their capacity for violence was matched by their commitment to using it only in defense of those who could not defend themselves. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ability to kill, but their wisdom in knowing when killing was necessary to preserve life. The last Krex bioship disappeared into deep space after 3 weeks of sustained human resistance. For the first time in their species' history, the Krex swarm had encountered organized opposition that could match their brutality with disciplined force. They retreated not because they were defeated, but because they had learned that consuming human protected worlds came at a cost they were unwilling to pay. Admiral Greg Stone stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship watching the alien fleets regroup in safe space. Around him, exhausted human crews were already beginning damage assessments and casualty reports. The campaign had cost humanity dearly, but they had saved 17 star systems and countless alien lives. "Sir, incoming transmission from Harmony Prime," reported Communications Officer Linda Hayes. "Ambassador Zephron requests immediate conference with senior command staff." Greg accepted the transmission, expecting another routine debrief session. Instead, he found himself face to face with the entire Galactic Council leadership. Their expressions ranged from shame to profound gratitude, but all showed a respect that had been completely absent during humanity's initial assessment. "Admiral Stone," began Ambassador Zephron, his forearms trembling slightly, "the Galactic Council owes humanity an apology that can never be adequate. We misjudged your species in the most fundamental way possible." Council Prime Vorthix stepped forward, his ancient form showing signs of deep exhaustion. "We interpreted your military capabilities as evidence of savage brutality. We failed to understand that your training was designed to protect innocent life, not destroy it." Greg remained silent, allowing the alien leaders to continue their unprecedented admission of error. Around the galaxy, human forces were still conducting rescue operations and providing medical aid to alien refugees. The same soldiers who had been viewed as dangerous killers were now being hailed as saviors. In the medical bay of the cruiser Defiant, Dr. Ryan Cooper was training alien medical personnel in human battlefield medicine techniques. Dr. Volin of the Healing Council watched intently as Ryan demonstrated triage procedures that had once horrified the galactic medical community. "The key is speed and efficiency," Ryan explained while treating a Vrex soldier injured during the evacuation of his home world. "Every second you spend on someone who cannot be saved is a second taken away from someone who can be." Dr. Volin applied the techniques Ryan had taught him, making rapid assessments of incoming casualties. The alien physician was amazed at how many more patients could be treated when resources were allocated based on survivability rather than sentiment. "Your species has turned healing into a science," Dr. Volin said with admiration. "We focused so much on preserving every life that we often failed to save the lives we could have preserved." Meanwhile, at the newly established Joint Military Academy on Harmony Prime Station, Dr. Lisa Park was addressing the first class of non-human military students. The diverse group included representatives from species that had never experienced warfare beyond minor territorial disputes. "Human military doctrine is built on a simple principle," Lisa began. "Use the minimum force necessary to achieve your objective while protecting innocent lives. Everything else is just tactics and equipment." The alien students listened intently as Lisa explained concepts that had been completely foreign to their peaceful civilizations. Rules of engagement, proportional response, and acceptable casualties were ideas that required careful explanation to beings who had never faced such difficult decisions. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, reviewed the Academy curriculum with his alien counterparts. The courses that had once been viewed as training for systematic slaughter were now recognized as essential education for protecting peaceful civilizations. Your kill count training teaches precision and restraint, observed strategic analyst Prism to 9, whose crystalline form pulsed with understanding. Every exercise emphasizes minimizing collateral damage while neutralizing threats efficiently. Jake nodded as he watched alien cadets practicing rune-clearing exercises under human instruction. We learned through hard experience that indiscriminate violence creates more problems than it solves. Real strength comes from knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. The transformation in galactic attitudes toward humanity was most evident in the council chambers themselves. Senator Valen of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition stood before the assembled delegates to propose a resolution that would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. Fellow beings, we must formally acknowledge our error and grant humanity full membership with all privileges and responsibilities thereof. Moreover, I propose that human forces be designated as the official peacekeeping arm of the Galactic Council. The vote was unanimous. Every species that had once feared human military capabilities now voted to place those same capabilities at the service of galactic peace. The irony was not lost on anyone present. Ambassador Zephron personally delivered the news to the human delegation. Admiral Morrison, it is my honor to inform you that humanity has been granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Additionally, we request that human forces accept responsibility for maintaining peace throughout our territories. Jake accepted the honor with the same quiet professionalism that had characterized human military service throughout the crisis. We are honored by your trust, Ambassador. Human forces will serve the cause of peace wherever they're needed. Colonel Beth Martinez was establishing the first human peacekeeping base on New Sullen when she received word of the Council's decision. Around her, construction crews were building facilities that would house joint human-alien military units. The same world that had nearly fallen to the cracks would become a symbol of interspecies cooperation. Ma'am, we're getting reports of minor conflicts in 3 different sectors, reported Major Carl Davis, Pete's younger brother, who had been assigned to the peacekeeping command staff. The Council is requesting human mediation teams. Beth smiled as she reviewed the deployment requests. Human forces would be responding to territorial disputes, trade disagreements, and resource conflicts across the galaxy. Their role would be to protect innocent populations, while helping peaceful species resolve their differences without violence. Captain Pete Davis led the first joint peacekeeping mission to a disputed mining world, where 2 alien species had been arguing over extraction rights for decades. His team included human soldiers working alongside alien diplomats and technical specialists. Our job is to keep everyone safe while the negotiators work out a fair solution, Pete explained to his mixed human-alien squad. We're not here to pick sides or impose solutions. We're here to make sure nobody gets hurt while smarter people than us figure out the details. The mission succeeded because human forces could credibly threaten violence while demonstrating restraint. The disputing parties knew that human soldiers were capable of decisive action if negotiations broke down, but they also understood that humans would only use force to protect innocent lives. As the months passed, human peacekeeping forces became a stabilizing presence throughout the galaxy. Their reputation for disciplined restraint and protection of non-combatants grew with each successful mission. Species that had once lived in fear of stronger neighbors now felt secure under human protection, the final scene of humanity's integration into galactic society took place in the same training facility where alien observers had first witnessed human military exercises. But now alien cadets were learning alongside human instructors, practicing the same techniques that had once terrified their leaders. Admiral Jake Morrison watched as a mixed unit of humans and aliens conducted a hostage rescue simulation. Alien soldiers moved with growing confidence, applying lessons learned from human military doctrine. They understood now that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when destruction was necessary to preserve life. You know what the irony is, Jake said to Ambassador Zifron as they observed the training exercise. The galaxy's greatest fear about humanity turned out to be our greatest gift to galactic civilization. Zefron's forearms gestured in agreement. Your capacity for controlled violence in service of peace is something we could never have developed on our own. We needed a species that understood both the necessity of force and the importance of restraint. The training exercise concluded successfully, with alien soldiers demonstrating the same precision and discipline that had once marked them as humanity's most dangerous characteristic. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the greatest protectors were those who truly understood the cost of violence and chose to use it only when no other option remained.